September 11th, 2001. President George W. Bush sits in a Florida elementary school classroom reading The Pet Goat to second graders. An aide approaches and whispers in his ear, "America is under attack." For 7 minutes, Bush continues to sit there, his face a mixture of shock and determination. The cameras capture it all. Later, critics will dissect these minutes endlessly. But in that moment, Bush is processing what will become the defining crisis of his presidency. Later that day, standing atop the rubble of the World Trade Center with a bullhorn in hand, Bush finds his voice. When a rescue worker shouts that he can't hear the president, Bush responds,
"I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon."
The rest of the world hears you, and the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon. The crowd erupts in loud chants. It's a moment of genuine connection for a man who just months earlier had won the presidency in one of the most contested elections in American history.
My friends are dead because you lied!
After September 11th, Bush's presidency transforms overnight. Within weeks, American forces invade Afghanistan to overthrow the Taliban regime harboring al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden and his terrorist group, whom were directly linked to the 9/11 attacks. And then Bush had this to say.
Axis of evil, arming to threaten the peace of the world by seeking weapons of mass destruction. These regimes pose a grave and growing danger. They could provide these arms to terrorists, giving them the means to match their hatred. They could attack our allies or attempt to blackmail the United States. In any of these cases, the price of indifference would be catastrophic.
In his 2002 State of the Union address, he identifies an axis of evil: Iraq, Iran, and North Korea. Even though none of these countries had any connection to 9/11, they build a case against Iraq, claiming that Saddam has weapons of mass destruction. So in February 2003, Colin Powell, the Secretary of State, presents the administration's evidence to the United Nations. One thing he said is, "Every statement I make today is backed up by sources, solid sources, but it will later emerge that much of this intelligence was deeply flawed or outright fabricated. Straight lies." So on March 19, 2003, without UN authorization, American and Allied forces invade Iraq. At least 940,000 people have been killed by direct war violence. 3 weeks later, Bush lands on the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln under a banner reading "Mission Accomplished," declaring major combat operations over. But the real war is just beginning. No weapons of mass destruction are found.
You lied! You lied about weapons of mass destruction! You lied about connections to 9/11! You lied about Iraq being a threat! You sent me to Iraq! You sent me to Iraq in 2003! My friends are dead! Joshua Castile! You killed people! You lied! You lied about WMD! 1,000,000 Iraqis are dead because you lied! My friends are dead because you lied!
What you just witnessed is Iraq war veteran and Empire Files producer Mike Prisner. He disrupted a speech by George W. Bush in Beverly Hills. Primarily, I demanded he apologize for the 1 million or more dead. When George W. Bush took the nation to war in Iraq, he did so with full knowledge that Iraq possessed none of the weapons of mass destruction he told the country he knew existed. As we reflect on George W. Bush's legacy, the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, the lives lost, and the voices like Mike Prisner's still crying out, we're left with a question that lives long after the credits roll. Can the actions of a single leader justify the loss of millions of lives?